Is something that will always be here. It will always be present. You will always suffer um, in one capacity or another. I think as human beings, um, we want to find ways to remedy suffering or to eliminate it completely. Um, and I think, if you know anything about Buddhism, that's sort of the premise is eliminating suffering. And I guess my own personal philosophy on suffering is that it's just here. It's always present, ever present. And even if you're not suffering personally, someone somewhere is experiencing some sort of suffrage. And if you have any sort of compassion or empathy, seeing someone else suffering, it affects you. Seeing people in general, no matter what the situation is, you've seen them go through a situation that is trying or deadly even, is going to make you feel something. So I say that to say that suffering, as far as the way the world is currently, it's not going anywhere, at least not anytime soon. And I say that with a little bit of hope that I'm wrong, but I tend to be a realist, you know what I'm saying? So I think, at least in my own personal experience and in my journey through life thus far, I've come to terms. I won't even say that. I won't say that I've come to terms. I feel like I've learned to live with the fact that I know that I'm going to be either a active recipient or spectator of suffering in some form for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? So with that knowledge, it gives me the ability to sort of understand that I have to find a way to live in that suffering when it does arrive in my life or someone I love's life or in general. You know what I mean? I think when we try and run from it, when we try to escape it and we do everything in our power to escape it, we find ourselves not being content and never finding the ability to be content, because all we're trying to do is remedy that universal fact that suffering is here and it's present and it's happening. So my philosophy and my perspective is that I take that suffering that seems to be inevitable to me and use it to my advantage. I don't want to suffer. I don't think that I'm not one of these people who believes that suffering is necessary, because there's a lot of suffrage happening in the world that is not necessary and it should not be happening. You know what I mean? But I understand that for me, in my experiences, the suffering that, and I almost feel strange calling it suffering, because is it really? To what degree it is an event considered actual suffrage? But I digress. The point being is using this suffering that I feel, the way as I interpret it, as sort of a springboard, and if not a springboard, at least a reference point to use in order to grow, in order to become more resilient, to be able to withstand trials and the different tribulations that come with life, and hardening myself and callousing myself in a way that makes me more weathered, I guess. It's probably the best way to put it. Because as long as I spend my life not accepting the fact that it's here and that it's going to be around me, is the more that I find myself not being able to really ever be content, because all I want to do is run from it, continue to run from it and avoid it at all costs. But realizing that I have to deal with it at some point, no matter how far I run, and eventually I'm gonna turn a corner and it's gonna be there. I have to know how to deal with it when it does arrive. So using it as my stepping stool of some sort has been the only way that it's truly shown me that I can live and be okay with the fact that at some point I'm going to have to go through some things. You know what I mean? If we talk about it on a wide scale, I feel like it's definitely different, because like I said, there's a lot of suffrage in this world that is not right and it shouldn't be. And I can't tell people that you should use that as your stepping stool when people are being slaughtered or starving to death. Like, that would be completely that would be a wild thing for me to say. That would be a very wild thing for me to say, and would definitely be an ignorant and something that would just mean that I'm lacking a lot of awareness. But in our own personal experiences as human beings who are probably living in the Western world, where we're dealing with what they would call first world problems, this can be applied. You get what I'm saying? And I'm sure it could be applied in other places, but I speak from my perspective as a black man living in the Western world, the United States in particular. So yeah, that's more or less what I'm getting at in this video. These things that are going to happen to you inevitably are going to show up in your life. Instead of constantly trying to run from these things, use them as a way to at least propel you and help you grow into a better individual, a more resilient individual, because you're not getting away. And that's just the fact of the matter. You're not getting away. So with that being said, I appreciate everybody watching. Once again, peace.